Chapter 3876. Only then did Xiao Bao heave a sigh of relief. But he had been scared by Li Weiran several times and hadn't seen his father for a long time. He was already worried, so his little face was still a little pale. Seeing Mu Yan now, grievances and worries flooded his mind. Xiao Bao couldn't help but hug Mu Yan's neck and bury his face in her neck, refusing to look at Li Weiran. Li Weiran's smile was bright. His eyebrows and eyes seemed to emit a flirtatious charm. Mu Yan really knows me well. Stop. Mu Yan interrupted him and smiled. Li Weiran, thank you for always protecting Xiao Bao here. Now you can go back. Xiao Bao froze and couldn't help but raise his head, looking at Mu Yan and Li Weiran in surprise. Mother said that Uncle Wei Ran stayed here to protect him? Li Weiran couldn't help but grit his teeth. Are you dreaming? Mu Yan ignored him and touched Xiao Bao's head. Hurry up and thank your Uncle Wei Ran. He even nodded. You're really becoming more and more like an uncle. Xiao Bao's eyes were sparkling. He jumped down from Mu Yan's arms and walked towards Li Weiran. But just as he took a step, Li Weiran's figure rippled like water and disappeared. Xiao Bao was stunned for a long time before he couldn't help but laugh. Uncle Wei Ran was really at Sundara. Little Master returned to the Xiaoxian continent. Hearing Xiao Bao's story, Mu Yan was deep in thought and felt a little uneasy. She didn't know what kind of array it was to go against the heavens and change fate. But before leaving Liberty City to save Big Brother and Xiao Qi, Mu Yan had returned to Hexapagoda to check on Luo Yunxiao's situation. At that time, she noticed that Little Master seemed to have become a lot weaker. Would he really be fine if he returned to the Xiaoxian continent under such circumstances? Also, Li Weiran said that the demon race and the Nether Realm joined forces to attack the polar domain. Was that true? Mu Yan's finger lightly pressed on the void spirit ring. The energy waves coming from the ring were stable and normal. Did that mean that Di Mingju was very safe now? Mother, Daddy will be fine, right? Mu Yan bent down and kissed his forehead. Of course. How could Daddy be fine? If only she could be a little stronger and advance her cultivation a little faster, that would be great. How she wants to immediately ascend to the Xiaoxian continent and go to Di Mingju's side. Xiaoxian continent, the border between the polar domain and the nether domain. 10,000 years ago, this place used to be a bustling city. However, a great battle had turned all the pavilions into ruins. Blood spilled all over the ground, and countless skeletons were buried deep underground. Year after year, the wars between the polar domain, the demon race, and the nether realm usually took place on this land. More and more corpses were piling up. Slowly, this piece of land began to be shrouded in a deathly aura, and not a single blade of grass grew. Thus, the people of the Xiaoxian continent called this land the ancient battlefield of death. At this moment, the battle on the ancient battlefield of death was about to start. Compared to the allied forces of the Nether region and the Infernal region, the polar domain clearly didn't have the advantage in numbers. Yin Wuji stood on the divine flying beast, the White Phoenix, and looked down at the man in front of him who he had hated for hundreds of years. Di Mingju, when you cripple my son, did you ever expect that your polar domain would end up like this today? His voice was filled with hatred, but his eyes were shining with fanatical excitement. Yin Yuani, the only son he valued, was destroyed. Naturally, he felt pain and resentment. Chapter 3877. But compared to the unification of the Nether Realm, his wrath over the destruction of his first son is nothing. What's more, he doesn't only have one son, Yin Yuani. Except for Yin Yuani, the others aren't born of his official wife, Fu Yushu. Their talents and favor are completely incomparable to Yin Yuani's. However, Yin Wuji reckons that he can still live for at least another few thousand years. At that time, even if he's an idiot, he'll still be able to cultivate him. And to kill Di Mingju and take the territory of the polar domain for himself, this is the only opportunity that comes once in a blue moon. Di Mingju still hasn't spoken. Han Yi already sneers, his face full of ridicule. Yin Wuji, have you forgotten the appearance of being beaten by my Jun Shang on the floating island? I still remember the scene of Domain Lord Yin's sorry figure fleeing at that time.
What?
Now that you've latched onto the demon race's thigh, you dare to bully our Junshang like a fox exploiting the tiger's might? Yin Wuji's complexion becomes incomparably unsightly in a split second. Possessing Yin Yuanyi and being beaten up by Deming Ju is simply his greatest shame and humiliation. But he also knows that he's not Deming Ju's opponent by himself. So Yin Wuji turns his head, looking at the black-clothed man beside him, exuding a biting cold air. Demon Lord, are you going to let those little bastards of the polar domain humiliate us like this? Jun Tian still hasn't spoken. Tian, he is already shouting loudly. How come I didn't hear the polar domain humiliating us demon race? They even compare us to their thighs. TSK, TSK, TSK. Those idiots of the polar domain must have had some discerning eyes this time. Tian He's words received strong approval from Yao Dao, Shuejiai, and the others. The demon race shouts in unison. Long live the demon lord! Long live the demon lord! The atmosphere is joyous and harmonious. Yin Wuji almost spits out a mouthful of old blood. Demon lord, don't forget. What is the purpose of us leading the army here today? Yin Wuji says through gritted teeth, if we want to destroy the polar domain, the first thing we have to do is to join hands and kill Deming Ju. Jun Tian coldly glances at him. This lord still doesn't need your guidance. Right at this moment, Elder Chang's flustered and exasperated voice came from the polar domain. Minwei, come out. Standing behind Jun Tian, Elder Minwei coughed lightly, walked out slowly and bowed to Elder Chang. Long time no see. Elder Chang. See my ass. Elder Chang, who was usually cultured and refined, couldn't help but curse. What did you promise me back then? When the Hidden Abyss was attacked by the poltergeist ghosts, it was my family's lord who risked his life to seal the crack caused by the collapse of the sky pillar. He is also my family's polar domain's future sage Koff. In short, do you dare to say that your demon race doesn't owe my polar domain tens of thousands of lives? When we separated above the Hidden Abyss, we clearly agreed that the demons and the polar domain would mind their own business as much as possible. Now, you actually joined forces with the Nether Realm to attack my polar domain. Is this how you demons repay kindness with enmity? Are you shameless? These words caused Min Wei's face to turn pale. The people of the Devil Clan were also somewhat unable to lift their heads. The main reason was that during the collapse of the heavens back then, there were indeed many people in the Demon Clan who were indebted to the Polar Domain and Dabii Temple. Now, it's only been a few months, and they've already given their saviors a blow. It's indeed a bit unjustifiable. Minwei coughed lightly and said, Didn't I say I'll do my best? I tried my best, but if I couldn't do it, then there's nothing I can do. Moreover, this can't be blamed on your monarch being thick-headed. Chapter 38-78. You won't agree to a single one of our devil race's requests. Whatever the honorable demon wants is naturally of utmost importance. Since I can't get it, I can only snatch it. What did the devil race want? What did they seek? The upper echelons of the polar domain and Jun Tian's trusted aides were all clear about this. The first was the universe mirror. The second one is Medicine King Han Chujiu. But the problem was that these two things couldn't be given away by the polar domain, no matter what. Han Chujiu was hit by a vicious curse many years ago. Since then, she couldn't leave the Medicine King Hall. And the clone also could not be too far away from the Medicine King Hall or leave for too long. As for the universe mirror, it was the only spatial treasure of the polar domain. How could it easily leave the outside world? The only thing the polar domain can agree to is for Jun Tian to go to the polar domain and see Han Chujiu, or use the cosmos mirror. But the dignified leader of a realm had to venture deep into the enemy's hinterland. How could the demons accept this? What they hated the most was being threatened and restrained. The fiend race believed that the strong were respected. Whatever they wanted, they just had to snatch it. As a result, things had developed to their current state. Minwei still wanted to say something. Jun Tian interrupted him coldly. If the emperor thinks that my demon clan owes you, then in the battle later, my demon clan will not retaliate for an hour. That way, we can be considered to be even, right? In a battle that involved tens of thousands of spirit cultivators and demonic cultivators, the demonic cultivators didn't even fight back for an hour. Wasn't that no different from courting death? The people of Polar Domain and Nether Domain were all stunned. However, the group of people in the Fiend race were all cheering, not even half an objection. Wuji was about to go crazy. This group of idiots of the Devil race, in the end, did they still want to start a war with the Polar Domain? He actually said that he wouldn't retaliate for an hour. Wouldn't that mean that their Nether Domain had to go against the Polar Domain alone? Wuji said in a cold voice, "Demon Lord, you'd best think carefully before you speak. If you don't retaliate for an hour, do you want to consign the demon race to eternal damnation? Demon Lord, please look at the bigger picture." Tianhe said angrily, "My demon race has always believed in an eye for an eye for an eye. Not retaliating within an hour means that we owe the Polar Domain a favor. How are you not considering the bigger picture? Also, Wuji, who do you think you are? Who are you to teach our demon lord a lesson?" Wuji was almost seething with anger. The elders of the Nether Domain also had ashen faces. He knew that the demons were unreliable, but he didn't expect them to be unreliable to this extent. Now, they were all wondering whether it was right or wrong for the Nether Realm to start this war. Wuji took a deep breath and was about to speak to Jun Shirtian. In the distance, Di Mingju, who's been spinning the ring on his hand without saying a word, suddenly disappears. When he reappeared, he was already hovering high above the allied forces of the Nether region and the Demon region. Di Mingju looked down at Jun Shirtian and Wuji, coldly saying, "Ben Jun is very busy. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. Jun Shirtian, Wuji, go ahead and join forces. See if this lord will be afraid of you." This cocky brat. At this moment, not to mention Wuji, even Jun Shirtian's eyes were suffused with a strong desire to fight. In his eyes, Di Mingju, who has just turned 1,000 years old, is only a fledgling rising star. Even if Di Mingju's cultivation has already reached the immortal emperor level, even surpassing the current him, this will not change. Jun Shirtian's figure suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he already appeared in front of Di Mingju, sneering. Even when Di Beixian was alive, he didn't dare to be arrogant in front of this lord. Chapter 3879. Di Mingju's expression didn't change. Di Beixian is Di Beixian. Ben Jun is Ben Jun. Jun Shirtian laughed. A trace of admiration flashed across his eyes. "All right, then let me see how much real talent you have." As he spoke, Wuji also came to Jun Shirtian's side. He looks at Di Mingju with a lot more coldness and hatred. If he had Di Mingju's talent, how could the Netherworld region be like this today? They had been trampled underfoot by the demon race and the Polar Domain. They didn't even put him, a dignified region lord, in their eyes. If it was when the Netherworld Saint Emperor moved unhindered, Di Mingju would be nothing but a fart. Jun Shirtian was nothing. It was a pity that there was no successor in the Nether Realm. The only one with awe-inspiring talent who could inherit the Nether's sacred flame was. When he thought of that unfilial son that caused him to be unable to eat or sleep in peace, a wave of agitation surged into Wuji's heart. He forcefully suppresses his emotions, sneering. "Di Mingju, today, I will settle old and new accounts with you." Whoosh! A terrifying pressure suddenly emanated from the three of them. The demon race and the Nether Realm army were so close that they retreated in fear. Only Minwei, Tianhe, a few others, and Wuji's trusted elders remained. On the Polar Domain side, Elder Chong leads Han Yi, Ing Mei, and Xing Lang, and hurries over to support the formation. Everyone knew that a battle of the century was about to break out. But at this moment, a red light flashes from Di Mingju's waist. Although it was not dazzling, it immediately attracted Jun Shirtian's attention, because as the light flickered, he felt as if the blood in his body was boiling. Jun Shirtian could not help but stop releasing his pressure and look down. When he sees what's hanging on Di Mingju's waist, his eyes widen in disbelief. He cried out in alarm, Demon Core Blood Jade. Jun Shirtian suddenly raises his head to look at Di Mingju. How can you have a monster core blood jade on you? The most extraordinary thing is that the monster core blood jade on Di Mingju's waist unexpectedly has the aura of a monster core connected to his bloodline. How is this possible? Di Mingju caresses the vermilion jade on his waist. His hand was scalding hot. Something in Zhu Yuzhong seemed to be beating violently, as if it was being summoned by something. He was desperately trying to flee towards Jun Shirtian. Mayan's words unconsciously echo in Di Mingju's ears. I didn't ask you to wear this demon blood core jade to find Xiao Bao's biological father. Instead, I want to find Jun Shiyuan. I heard that the demon core blood jade is mixed with the blood of the demon race. You should be able to get close to the demon race in the Xiaoxian continent, right? As long as it neared Jun Shiyuan, the demon core blood jade would sense it. At that time, I will be able to find him. The demon core blood jade reacted. Furthermore, the one who reacted was actually Jun Shirtian. Di Mingju's eyes are firmly fixed on Jun Shirtian, and he almost loses his composure and cries out in alarm. Could it be that Jun Shirtian is Mayan's biological father, Jun Shiyuan? How is this possible? Jun Shirtian is even more out of control than Di Mingju. In a flash, he arrives in front of Di Mingju, reaching out to grab the vermilion jade on his waist. Di Mingju's reaction is also extremely fast. He took a step back and retreated a few steps. Jun Shirtian snaps. Return the demon core blood jade to me. Di Mingju sneers. This vermilion jade is a keepsake from Ben Jun's fiancé. Why should I give it to you? As soon as the words come out, both of them stare blankly. An unimaginable thought flashes through their minds. Chapter 3880. Jun Shirtian said after a long while, You said that this demon core blood jade was given to you by your fiancé? Who is she and where is she now? Di Mingju also stares at him, not answering but asking, What does this demon core blood jade have to do with you? Answer me first. Answer my question first. Enwuji. Everyone who is waiting for the battle of the century to begin. We've already taken off our pants, and you guys are actually chatting? Enwuji said angrily. Demonic Lord, why are you wasting your breath on him? Once the fight is over, I'll be able to smell out any problems. Jun Shirtian's complexion is ashen. He looks Di Mingju up and down, the words a gift from his fiancée, repeatedly echoing in his mind. His eyes are critical and cold. Di Mingju also caresses the hot vermilion jade on his waist. Remembering the conjecture in his heart, his complexion alternates between green and white. The two of them actually ignored Enwuji. This caused Enwuji to be on the verge of exploding. A strong killing intent flashes through his eyes. A black light flashes in his hand, and he attacks Di Mingju. Di Mingju doesn't even spare him a glance. Crackling sounds of thunder and lightning could be heard from his palm. Then, an almost invisible black longsword shot out from his hand and slashed in the air. Enwuji's expression changed greatly, and he retreated several steps before stabilizing himself. And the hidden weapon he had just used to attack Di Mingju has already disintegrated into slag in a split second. Enwuji looked at Di Mingju with shock and fear. He didn't expect this man to be so powerful. The difference between an immortal emperor and an immortal venerable was only one level, but it seemed to be a natural moat. The black longsword made a crackling sound in the air, then slowly changed shape, turning into a huge longsword. The edge of the long saber faced Enwuji, ready to fall at any moment. Enwuji had never felt the disparity between him and Di Mingju as he did now. If this man wanted to kill him, he probably wouldn't even have the strength to fight back. The saber was about to fall. Enwuji hurriedly shouted at Jun Shirtian. Demon Lord, what are you doing? Didn't our two domains gather here today to suppress the polar domain? Why haven't you joined hands with me to kill Di Mingju? Jun Shirtian takes a deep look at Di Mingju, his brows tightly knit, as if he's thinking about something. A moment later, he suddenly turned around and returned to Minwei's side, waving his hand impatiently. Let's not fight for today. Di Mingju also calmly lands on the ground. Elder Chong and the others hurriedly surrounded him. Lord, what happened? Deming Ju says coldly. We'll talk after we get back. You're not going to fight the demon race and the nether realm today? Deming Ju's lips move, but he doesn't speak. What was there to fight? If the demon lord Jun Shirtian was really Mu Yan's biological father, that was his father-in-law. If he really killed someone, how would he explain it to Mu Yan? It was better to go back and sort out his thoughts first. Demon lord, what happened? This subordinate seems to have heard you mention the monster core blood jade. What happened between you and the polar domain's sovereign lord? Jun Shirtian said calmly. Let's talk after we return to the camp. If he could, he really wanted to pull out a part of his soul and destroy it. Monster core blood jade. It turned out that he had actually left a monster core blood jade for his daughter back then. If he had known earlier, he only needed to follow the aura of the monster core, and he would have found it in at most 1.5 years. Why would he need to waste so much effort? Chapter 3881. In the blink of an eye, the people of the polar domain and the devil domain have completely retreated. Each of them returned to their camps dozens of li away. Only Inwuji and the people of the nether realm were left in a mess. It was clearly a two-sided alliance attacking the other side. However, the nether realm was completely ignored. Domain lord, what should we do? Inwuji's face is gloomy, almost unable to suppress his outburst of emotions. Taking a few deep breaths, he coldly says, return to the camp. Polar Domain's camp. Jun Shang, what happened? What were you talking about with Jun Shirtian before? Deming Ju and Jun Shirtian's conversation was through secret sound transmission. Except for the two of them, no one else could hear it. Even Inwuji, who was close at hand, could only vaguely hear the gist of it. This made the people of the polar domain scratching their hearts and lungs to know what happened. Deming Ju moved his lips, seemingly wanting to say something. But thinking of Mu Yan's blessing, he swallowed back the words that were on the tip of his tongue. If Jun Shirtian was really Mu Yan's biological father, Jun Shiyuan, then he must wait for Mu Yan to come and recognize him. Especially Ning Yanxin's death. Deming Ju knows that it's a knot in Mu Yan's heart. Before the matter is confirmed, he can't let too many people know for the time being. Jun Shang? Deming Ju comes back to his senses and suddenly asks, Elder Chong, do you know any news about the demon princess? Elder Chong stares blankly. He doesn't understand why his Jun Shang suddenly mentioned the demon princess. He thinks for a moment. This old man has only heard Minwei mention it a few times. The specific situation is not clear. The demon princess seems to be the child of Jun Shirtian, who was lost in the outside world for several years. But it seems that even Minwei and the others don't know the specifics. Deming Ju suddenly says, when did Jun Shirtian disappear? This. Elder Chong stares blankly. This subordinate doesn't know the specifics. I only know the date of his return. Because that was also the day of the great shuffle of the demon race. The previous demon lord was beheaded by Jun Shirtian in public. Thousands of demons returned to their hearts, establishing the status of the demon domain, polar domain, and nether realm. Hearing Elder Chong say the date, Deming Ju's heart thumps. This world almost coincided with the time when Ning Yanxin was trapped in the Hell Rebirth Array. Could it be that Jun Shirtian was really Jun Shiyuan? Elder Chong doesn't see Deming Ju's bewilderment and continues to speak. Speaking of which, Honor Demon can be said to value and dote on this daughter very much. He hasn't even seen her yet, but he's already prepared a lot of treasures for his daughter, waiting to find her and give her as a dowry. But this is also normal. High-grade devils are fundamentally different from us humans. They're born from the gathering of hidden devilish chi, and they're born to be powerful and cruel. But it was precisely because of this that the rules of the heavenly Tao restricted them greatly. It was almost impossible for high-grade devilish beings to reproduce, and even if a devilish being and a human were to conceive a child, it was extremely rare due to the favorable timing and geographical conditions. Ordinary high-level devils are already like this, not to mention Jun Shirtian, the Devil Lord. When I first heard Minwei say that Jun Shirtian had a daughter, I simply couldn't believe it. That's simply against the rules of the heavens and earth. It's no wonder that Jun Shirtian and the entire demon race would attach so much importance to this princess. They didn't even buy the person, but they already found a son-in-law for the princess. I heard that even the 3 Lives Stone's engagement was set, in order to find the whereabouts of the demon princess through the marriage contract. Chapter 3882. What did you just say? Elder Chang's long-winded words are interrupted by Di Mingju's fierce shout, scaring him so much that he almost shivers. Jun Juanshang, I said so much just now, referring to which sentence? Di Mingju has a calm expression on his face. His hands are tightly gripping the vermilion jade at his waist, almost crushing it. Damn it! How could he have forgotten? If Jun Shirtian is Jun Shiyuan, then Mayan is the demon princess. Doesn't that mean that the 3 Lives Stone on Mu Yen was signed by Jun Shirtian? And the one who made the engagement with Mu Yen was none other than Luo Yunxiao. My lord, what happened? Why do you look so pale? Is that demon princess related to you in any way? By the way, did the demon Venerable interrogate you about your refusal to marry the demon princess? Starwolf smiled coldly and said, the fiend race's fools truly think too highly of themselves. What kind of talent and status does Junshang have? How could he take a fancy to that princess of theirs who hasn't even shown her face? Han Yi follows up. Could it be that because Junshang isn't willing to marry their princess, the honored demon lord joined forces with the Netherworld region to attack our polar domain? This is too tasteless. Humph. Jun Shirtian and the others should stop dreaming. If our Junshang says he won't marry, then he won't. Even if they make a scene, that princess of theirs won't have the chance to become the mistress of our polar domain. Starwolf and Han Yi haven't finished echoing each other's words, when suddenly, Di Mingju coldly glares at them like a knife. That gaze was truly one of anger, depression, and irritation, as well as a desire to kill. Han Yi and Xing Lang are scared stiff, and their voices come to a screeching halt. Junshang, what happened to you? Did we say something wrong? Di Mingju, all of you get out. Ben Jun wants to be alone. Demon Camp. Demon Sovereign, I seem to have sensed the aura of the demon core blood jade just now. As soon as they entered the camp, Minwei immediately chased everyone out and asked with a serious expression. Jun Shirtian took a deep breath and told him everything that happened just now. Minwei was dumbstruck when he heard this and was unable to recover his senses for a long time. Demon Lord, you mean to say that the Polar Domain's sovereign lord knows our demon race's princess, and the 2 of them are engaged? Jun Shirtian paced back and forth in the room, his expression fluctuating between gloomy and clear. I don't know, but I'm certain that the monster core blood jade was made from the fusion of my monster core fragment and my essence blood. I can even feel the residual presence of a soul and a spirit within the monster core blood jade. Minwei was stunned for a long time before he could not help but exclaim, no wonder the things that Zhongli Darren had predicted were all indirectly related to the polar domain. Whether it is Han Chujiu or the Heaven and Earth Mirror, even when the princess was engaged, Zhongli also hinted that we should talk to the polar domain. Could it be that Zhongli Darren had already guessed that he could only find the princess through Di Mingju? Wait. If the princess is already Di Mingju's fiancé, then what should we do about the engagement we set for the princess? Jun Shirtian waved his hand and impatiently said, let's not talk about this matter first. At worst, we can just marry both of them. Cough, 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 cough. Minwei almost choked to death on his own saliva. What do you mean marry both of them? Demon Lord, aren't you afraid that Di Mingju will overturn the entire demon race by saying this? Chapter 3883. He was the exalted extreme domain's sovereign lord. It was one thing for the princess to marry him, but they actually wanted him to share a wife with another man? Jun Shirtian looked at him coldly and sneered. All men in this world can have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Don't tell me my daughter doesn't have this ability. Yes. Naturally, the princess had it. She could sleep with any man in the world, and she could sleep with as many as she wanted. Ahem. But honorable demon, now is not the time to discuss how many consorts the princess will marry. The most important thing now is to find the princess. Min Wei wiped the sweat on his forehead and said with a dry smile, "Do you think we should pay a visit to the Polar Domain's sovereign lord?" Jun Shirtian shakes his head and says in a low voice, "No need for the time being. First, send someone to investigate the identity of Di Mingju's fiancé. And that little fellow." Jun Shirtian's mind flashed with Xia Bao's adorable face. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the little guy was his grandson? That was why he had a good impression of the little fellow when they first met.
Min Wei also guessed what was going on.
For a moment, he was so excited that his face wrinkled with laughter. "I was just saying that the little Gongzi is so cute. How could such a rigid place like the Polar Domain raise him? So the little lord is a child of our demon domain.
Hee.
If that's the case, isn't it only right and proper to bring him back to our hidden abyss?" Jun Shirtian forcefully suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a cold voice, "Now, the war between us and the Polar Domain is on the verge of breaking out, and there's also the Nether Domain eyeing us covetously from the side. Before we confirm it, don't act rashly, and don't spread this news. Demon Lord, don't worry. Even if it's for the princess's safety, I won't dare to let the news leak." Min Wei bowed in acknowledgement. Then he couldn't help but frown. But if we really investigate the relationship between the princess and the Polar Domain, then this battle will have to end without a conclusion. I'm afraid that the Nether Domain won't be willing to let it go. Jun Shirtian sneered. "So, what if you don't want to give up? With Justine Wuji that trash, could it be that he dares to oppose the fiend race and the Polar Domain?" Netherrealm main camp. Clinking sounds came from the main hall. At this time, the army of the Netherrealm was stationed in the palace formed by the Sumeru Ring space. The Netherrealm and the new Elder Fu were naturally in the main hall. "Damn Di Mingju, damn Jun Shirtian, how dare you play with my netherworld?" Yin Wuji smashed a bunch of things, but his face was still ashen. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he almost couldn't suppress his emotions that were about to explode. The elders of the Nether Realm looked at each other and saw the helplessness and sighs in each other's eyes. The Nether Realm was currently weak and was unable to contend against the demon race or the Nether Realm alone. In the end, their domain master is still far inferior to Jun Shirtian and Di Mingju in terms of strength, and the Nether Realm had no successor. Yu Qin and the other elders could not help but shake their heads at the thought of the young lord who had now become a cripple. That was much worse than Yin Wuji. The Nether Realm did have some good seedlings with heaven-defying talents. But as it happened, Yu Qin could not help but shake his head. Others might not know of the existence of the First Highness, but they, the elders of the Nether Realm, were very clear about it. At such a young age, he had already inherited the third rank, Dark Yin Holy Flame. He was also the son-in-law candidate that the demon lord Jun Shirtian had taken a fancy to. If he was properly nurtured, in time, he might really be able to recreate the glory of the Holy Emperor of the Netherworld. Chapter 3884. But Yu Qin also knew that was impossible. To say that Yin Wuji hated His Highness to the bone and feared him to the extreme would not be an exaggeration. He couldn't think of a way to kill His Highness because of all kinds of external restrictions. How could he hand over Netherrealm to him? Yu Qin was lost in thought when he heard someone asking Wuji, "Domain Lord, if the demons really renege and withdraw their troops, what should we do?" Looking at today's situation, this was very likely. Jun Shirtian clearly didn't put the people of Netherrealm in his eyes at all. On the contrary, he was chatting happily with the Polar Domain's sovereign. Yin Wuji was already half dead with anger. Hearing this, he looked at the person who spoke, as if he wanted to kill someone. "I want Di Mingju dead. This time, I will make Di Mingju pay for my year's life." The implication was that even if the demons withdrew their troops, Netherrealm wouldn't retreat. But what was the difference between this and seeking death? The elder below hesitated. "Domain Lord, with just the military strength of our Netherrealm, It is absolutely impossible to contend with Polar Domain alone. In terms of the strongest fighting strength, Polar Domain's sovereign could crush their domain lord. Wuji's eyes were bloodshot. His body couldn't help but tremble. I will go find Jun Shirtian now. I want to ask the demons, going back on their words like this, do they still want to have a marriage alliance with our Netherrealm alliance? Yes, yes. I almost forgot. There is still a marriage agreement between the demons and our Netherrealm's highness. That demon princess must not be able to marry. That's why she insisted on sending her to our Netherrealm. Domain Lord, if you use this as a threat, I'm sure the demon Venerable won't dare to disagree. The others also nodded in agreement. There was even someone who suggested, Priest Lu Yun once prophesied that the person who marries the demon princess can stir up the situation of the world. Now that the young master is seriously ill, maybe we can transfer the marriage agreement to him, and he will be able to recover. Domain Lord, why don't you take this opportunity to mention it to the demon Venerable? I think the demon Venerable won't disagree. The corner of Yu Chen's mouth twitched, wanting to remind them that back in the hidden abyss, the demon Venerable Jun Shirtian despised Yuan's cowardly and stupid appearance. But the words were at the tip of his tongue. He swallowed them back. Wuji, on the other hand, was moved by the words of the people below him. An excited light shone in his eyes. Without further delay, he flew out of the demon clan's territory. However, he was rejected by Jun Shirtian. Of
Door.
outside.
Got it.
The person who replied to him was Devil Blade. There was a playful smile on his handsome face. I'm sorry, Protectorate Lordine. Our demon lord is in seclusion to comprehend Tao. Please forgive me for not being able to get close to you. Wuji said angrily. I have important matters to discuss with the demon Venerable. Fiendish Blade's expression did not change. Nothing is more important than the order of the demon Venerable. Territorial Lordine, please. Bastard. The rage that Wuji had been suppressing for an entire day finally exploded at this moment.
Who do you think you are?
How dare you look down on me? Today, I will let all of you devils know what it means to be superior. Before he finished speaking, a powerful spiritual force, accompanied by a blue-black flame, soared into the sky. The demon soldiers who were standing to the side felt the immense power contained in the flames and retreated. That was the netherworld fire that had been passed down from generation to generation in the netherworld. Although it was not as powerful as the netherworld holy flame. In the three realms, there were very few people who could rival it. Fiendish Blade's expression became extremely serious. He raised his hand in the air. Chapter 3885. A blood-red saber that was as long as two people appeared in his hand. All of you retreat. The demon race soldiers retreated in response. Demon Blade's face was slightly pale, and there were beads of sweat sliding down his forehead. But there was no fear on his face as he walked step by step towards Wuji. Even if he knew he was no match, he would not retreat even half a step. Because the demon race believed in strength, bravery, and advancing courageously. However, at this time, Wuji's expression changed greatly. He suddenly turned to look at the southern horizon. His face was filled with disbelief, and his body unconsciously began to tremble. The netherworld fire that was originally blooming behind him also disappeared without a trace. Demon Blade was surprised and followed his gaze. There didn't seem to be anything special.
No.
It was clearly noon with the scorching sun in the sky. But there was a red glow at the end of the southern horizon. And as time passed, the red glow became more and more dazzling, so much so that the blood red seemed to be dyed with a faint black chi. It was as if there was a ball of fire burning the sky and clouds until they were all burned to ashes. Wuji's face was filled with shock, and there were beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. His lips trembled as he muttered, Impossible! Impossible! How could he succeed? The doubt in Demon Blade's heart grew deeper. What had happened in the red glow that caused Wuji, who had always valued his reputation, to lose his composure in the territory of the demon race? Demon Blade opened his mouth to ask. Who would have guessed that Wuji would instantly disappear? Then, in less than 2 hours, the army of the Nether region that was stationed in the northwest corner of the ancient battlefield of death had collectively departed. Even the huge and luxurious palace had completely disappeared in an instant. "It's really strange," Sky River said suspiciously. It was clearly them who were clamoring to quickly start a war with the polar domain, and now they are fleeing as if their butts are on fire. Are those idiots of the Nether region crazy? Demon Blade frowned and couldn't help but look at the southern horizon. At this time, the scene of the burning clouds had already disappeared. Everything was calm, as usual. However, Yao Dao felt that something must have happened in the Nether realm. Otherwise, Wuji would not have revealed such a horrified expression, and he would not have led his troops away in such a hurry. Yao Dao told him about Wuji's performance. Everyone couldn't help but reveal puzzled expressions. Min Wei frowned. "Demon Venerable, now that the Nether domain has retreated, what should we do? Do you still want to start a war with the polar domain?" For a moment, everyone's gaze was focused on Jun Shirtian. The devil race was warlike. They would definitely not be willing to run away with their tails between their legs before the battle even started. However, the demon race also respected the strong, and they were the most loyal. Therefore, as long as their devil lord Jun Shirtian gave an order, all the devil race would obey without hesitation. Jun Shirtian's face was ice-cold as he frowned. He looked at the polar domain's camp with eyes brimming with killing intent. The bloodthirsty genes in Tianhe and the others were also stirred. He was waiting for Jun Shirtian to say the word kill. However, after waiting for a moment, Jun Shirtian gritted his teeth and said, "Pass down the order, retreat." What? Just now, the Devil Lord's face was clearly filled with killing intent. Why did he say retreat instead of attack? Chapter 3886. They didn't hear it wrong, right? Tianhe and the others looked at each other and saw the suspicion in each other's eyes. Only Min Wei was well aware. Did the Demon Lord want to kill the Polar Domain Emperor?
Of course, he wanted to.
He had been looking for his precious daughter for so long, but he didn't even get to see her face before she was taken by the pig opposite him. How could the Demon Lord not be angry? What's more, although the little Gongzi was cute. But in terms of age, when the princess was still very young, the Polar Domain Emperor had already, although the demon race had always been casual, daring to love and hate. As long as they liked someone, no matter the age, race, or background difference, they would be together if they wanted to. But that was for others. How could his precious daughter be treated the same? The Demon Lord probably wanted to chop up the Polar Domain Emperor and feed him to the dogs. But he couldn't kill him. And if he wanted to find the princess's whereabouts, he might have to ask the Polar Domain Emperor for help. How could the Demon Lord be happy? Okay, I told you to pass the order, so do it, no need to talk so much nonsense. Min Wei patted Tianhe's head and said snappily, "Get lost." He rolled his eyes and suddenly said, "Shui Jie, stay." Looking at the charming woman in white with fiery red lips and bright eyes, standing in front of him, Min Wei nodded, then beckoned to her and whispered in her ear, "You go to the Polar Domain camp first and ask to see the Emperor." First like this, then like this. Shui Jie was confused at first, then her eyes became brighter and brighter. The smile on her face became more and more charming and captivating. When Min Wei finished, Shui Jie giggled. "Elder Min Wei, don't worry, Shui Jie will complete the task. There is no man in this world who can escape my Shui Jie's charm skill." When Shui Jie left, Jun Shirchen frowned and looked at Min Wei. "You let Shui Jie seduce Deming Ju?" Min Wei stroked his beard and said with a smile, "How can it be called seduction? This subordinate just let Shui Jie use all her means to find out the princess's information from the Polar Domain people." After a pause, his voice turned slightly cold, and he said with a light snort, "If the Polar Domain's sovereign lord can't even resist this little charm, how can he be worthy of the princess? When the time comes, you can kill him. I'm sure the princess won't have any objections." Normally, Min Wei was always smiling like a Maitreya Buddha. In the demon race, the one who had the best relationship with the polar domain was none other than him. But now that he's talking about slaughtering Deming Ju, there isn't the slightest ripple in his eyes. However, Jun Shirtian was not surprised at all. Because this was the devil race, this was the true nature of the devil race. Love desires life, evil desires death. Min Wei continued, "Of course, if the polar domain's sovereign lord passes the test, Xue Jiayi should also bring back some news about the princess. At that time, it will be easier for us to find the princess." He nodded. That works too. If Deming Ju can't even pass this test. Jun Shirtian's lips curled into a cruel smile as he tightened his grip on the armrest. The sturdy metal armrest turned to dust in an instant. Polar Domain Camp. Junshang, the troops of the Netherworld realm have withdrawn. Hearing Han Ye's hurried report, Deming Ju raised his head, a rare expression of astonishment on his face. He thought that the demon race would withdraw their troops. He didn't expect that the first to withdraw would actually be the Netherworld realm. Yin Wuji was gnashing his teeth. No matter how you look at it, it's impossible for them to be willing to give up so quickly. Chapter 3887. Ing Mei bowed and said, "According to the reports of the scouts hidden in the Nether region, it seems that Yin Wuji's attitude suddenly changed greatly. His face was full of panic, and he forcefully ordered the army to retreat. Perhaps something has happened in the Nether Domain Imperial Court." Deming Ju looks at the horizon in the distance, where the sky has already begun to gradually darken. He faintly wrinkles his brows. Subconsciously, he held the void spirit ring between his fingers and slowly spun it. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart. But if something happened to the Nether realm, it should be a good thing for him, shouldn't it? "My lord, what should we do?" Star Wolf excitedly said. "The Nether realm has already retreated. The demons alone are absolutely not a match for our polar domain. Should we make the first move to gain the upper hand? Before the Nether realm's army returns, we'll first utterly defeat the demons." Before he could finish his words, he sees his family's Jun Shang coldly squinting at him like he's looking at an idiot. Star Wolf's voice paused and he said blankly, "Lord, what is it? Did I say something wrong?" At this moment, someone outside the house reported, "The demon race's envoy, Lady Xue Jiayi, requests an audience." Everyone in the room was startled. The two armies clashed, and a great battle was imminent. The demon race was not like the Nether realm who liked to play tricks, so why did they send an envoy at this time? Only Deming Ju is well aware. At this time, Jun Shirtian could no longer hold back. He wanted to inquire about the origin of the demon core blood jade. But he promised Mayan that before she meets Jun Shiyuan, he won't reveal her identity and whereabouts. At this time, he naturally had no interest in dealing with some devil race emissary. Just as he was about to refuse, he could not help but hesitate. Although Mu Yan has a grudge against Jun Shiyuan, they are still related by blood. Most importantly, that damned engagement. He couldn't bear it any longer. He just wanted to get rid of it immediately. Thinking of this, Deming Ju says in a low voice, "Bring them in." The person outside the door bowed in acknowledgement and went outside the camp to pass the order. Elder Chong looks at Deming Ju somewhat suspiciously. He felt that the actions of the Lord and the honored demon today were very strange. There seemed to be a secret between the two that no one else could find out. Her gaze unconsciously falls on the vermilion jade on Deming Ju's waist. This jade looks somewhat familiar. He seemed to have seen it there before. A thought flashed through his mind. Elder Chong was about to grasp something. Suddenly, a blood-red light shines from Deming Ju's chest, forming a strange totem. The totem shook uncontrollably in the bloody light, as if it would shatter at any moment. The room was silent for a moment. Everyone's expression changed. This is a blood-pact totem. It's Pajuan's blood contract totem. If the totem is broken, does that mean that Pajun is about to die? How could this be? Deming Ju makes a gesture in the air, and there's already a soul lamp in his palm, sparkling and translucent like jade. However, the flame on this soul lamp was already so weak that it was only the size of a soybean. As the breeze blew in through the window, it flickered, as if it would disappear at any moment. Elder Chang's complexion is pale. He looks towards Di Mingju in alarm. Junshang, Pajun is in imminent danger. Di Mingju's expression can still be considered calm. He says in a low voice, Benjun can now sense Pajun's position. He is in the Yenwu continent. Benjun will rush over now, this place, Elder Chang hurriedly said. Don't worry, Lord. We won't let anyone know that you've left. They all know very well that there are traitors in the polar domain. There are also many people in the Nether Realm and the demon race who want to annex the polar domain. If people knew that Di Mingju had gone to the Yenwu continent, then ambushing and killing him like the last time with Li Weiran, adding insult to injury, they would definitely not be few. Chapter 3888. Di Mingju nodded, didn't say anything more, and disappeared. Not long after he disappeared, there was a knock on the door. Reporting to the Lord, Lady Xue Jiayi is here. At this moment, Xinglang's heart was burning with anxiety. If it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation was too low and he would only be a burden to Junshang if he went, he would go along even if he died. When he heard Lady Xue Jiayi's name, he wanted to shout, "Get lost! What's there to see?" However, before he could say anything, Elder Chan covered his mouth. Elder Chan coughed lightly and tried to sound as normal as possible. Invite him in. From the moment Xue Jiayi entered the polar domain camp, she had been secretly observing. The more he observed, the more shocked he became. The polar domain strength was far stronger than she had imagined. The demon race was clearly the most arrogant and conceited race. But in the polar domain soldiers, she also saw the domineering confidence of, if not me, then who? There was also the obedience and loyalty that the demons didn't have. According to the words of the polar domain soldiers, the worship of their emperor even surpassed the worship of the devil race towards the devil lord. This is the conviction that Di Mingju, the strongest person in the Xiaoxian continent, brings to the polar domain. Against such a great army, could the demons really win? His heart was filled with shock and astonishment. The smile on Xueji's face became even more enchanting. She wore a snow-white fairy dress without any makeup. Her long hair was tied up loosely with a white ribbon. She was dressed in an incomparably pure manner, but her entire body exuded an enchanting charm. The polar domain soldier, who took her to the main camp, blushed to the roots of his ears. He lowered his head all the way, not daring to look at her. The way he spoke to her was indescribably gentle and warm. Only then did Xue Jiayi feel a little better. Her bewitching technique was indeed invincible. So, what if the polar domain's army was formidable? As long as she can charm Di Mingju, the thousands of troops and horses will still be able to play with them as they please. As the door opened, the smile on Xue Jiayi's face became even more charming. The tips of her brows and the corners of her eyes seemed to be dyed with 10,000 kinds of amorous feelings. However, as soon as she entered the house, she was dumbfounded. After looking around, Xue Jiayi blinked her eyes and asked, "May I ask where is the sovereign emperor that I want to meet?" Starwolf sneered. "Who do you think you are? You think you can meet the celestial emperor whenever you want to?" Xue Jiayi gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. It wasn't easy for her to put on the most pitiful and flirtatious appearance to enter, but in the end, the person she was supposed to seduce was nowhere to be seen. Elder Chang coughed lightly and said, "Junshang doesn't meet just anyone. There is no harm for Miss Xueji to tell us first. What is the matter that you wish to see us for? After we have made our decision, we will let Junshang decide whether to see you or not." Pausing for a moment, he stroked his beard and said with a smile, "After all, if we were to send a random person to seek an audience with the Demon Lord wouldn't accept him, right?" Xue Jiayi's face was livid, but she had to admit that what Elder Chang had said was true. Who was the Demon Lord? If he were to summon any random small fry, wouldn't that be terrible? Didn't they see that Yin Wuji had been rejected by their Demon Lord? Wait a minute. How could she be a shady little minion? She was the enchanting Shuejiai who could charm all the men in the world. Shuejiai took a deep breath and regained her vigorous fighting spirit. It didn't matter that she couldn't charm Di Mingju for the time being. These people in front of her were all Di Mingju's trusted subordinates. If she could charm these people, then wouldn't it be as easy as turning over her hand to get close to Di Mingju?
C.
Chapter 3889. The Snow Girl rolled her eyes and glanced at the faces of the people around her. In the end, he chose Mei. Of all the people in the room, Mei was the most handsome and handsome. However, there was a cold and abstinent temperament about him, which made people want to flirt with him and see what he looked like when he was in love. Moreover, Shueji knows that Mei is one of Di Mingju's 4 great imperial guards, the leader of the Xian department. The Xian division was the strongest division apart from the ghost-killing division that defeating armies was in charge of. Only such an expert was worthy of her bewitching technique. Shueji's mind raced, but her face showed a regretful expression. Her eyes glowed brightly as she said, "Shueji has come under the Demon Venerable's order. Firstly, I have a few questions to ask Imperial Emperor. Only Imperial Emperor can know these questions, so forgive me for not being able to answer them in front of everyone. Secondly, it's also Shueji's selfishness." Her beautiful eyes finally fell on Mei's body gently, like water. His body unconsciously moved a little closer to Shadow Enchantress. At that time, when the sky collapsed and the hidden abyss was in chaos, it was thanks to the generous rescue of the heroes of the polar domain that so many of my demon race's people were able to survive. To tell you the truth, one of them is my close friend, Shuejiai. She told me that it was Lord Mei who saved her life from the poltergeist ghost. Shuejiai's gaze was sincere, and her tone was gentle and soothing, but it was full of bewitching power. I owe such a favor, but I can't repay it. Every time I think about it, I can't sleep or eat in peace. This time, the Demon Venerable has decided to attack the polar domain. Shuejiai tosses and turns day and night in agony. When she said this, her frail body was on the verge of collapse. Her skin was smooth and delicate, but it was pale. It was a perfect confirmation of what she had said. She tossed and turned restlessly, unable to eat or sleep well. Shuejiai only hopes that we can stop fighting as soon as possible. If Shueji has the chance to repay my benefactor, Shueji is willing to pay any price. As she spoke, Shuejiai's body swayed and fell toward Mei's body, as if she could not bear it anymore. Mei's hand had just grasped the hilt of a sword, and before he could move, she saw a silhouette rush in front of her at a speed that the naked eye couldn't follow. The silhouette held her in his arms and kicked Shuejiai away. Han Yi is like a wild beast protecting its food, holding the person in his arms tightly. He angrily says, "Get lost, who let you touch Mei?" Shuejiai lowered her head and looked at the grayish-black footprint on her snow-white dress. She was dumbfounded. She was actually kicked. There was actually a man who could lay his hands on such a beautiful body. Shuejiai forcibly suppresses the fury in her heart, the expression on her face becoming more and more delicate, but there's also an incredulous sadness. This servant just wants to thank Mei for his kindness. Han Yi Darren, what are you doing?
Pay.
Han Ye's face turns green with anger. Do you think I'm blind? You're obviously trying to seduce my little shadow. The snow girl looked as if she had been struck by lightning. You are. Han Yi proudly hugs Mei a little tighter and even kisses her on the cheek. Little shadow is mine. Don't even think about it. The snow girl was in a mess in the wind. Mei pushes away Han Ye's hand and is about to step forward. Han Yi immediately catches up, grabbing her waist and refusing to let go. He even whispers in her ear, "Little shadow, don't pay attention to her. She's clearly trying to seduce you. You mustn't be fooled by her. Don't tell me that I'm not enough to satisfy you. How can this kind of flirtatious slut compare to me?" Chapter 3890. Mei's face reddened as she glared at him. Recently, this fellow had been pushing his luck. If I don't beat him up for 3 days, he's going to tear the tiles off the roof. But then she remembered that this guy was even jealous of women and couldn't help but laugh. She pinched his ear and scolded. Idiot. Having been scolded, Han Yi immediately smiles happily. The two of them had completely forgotten about Xue Jie. The snow girl was so angry that she ground her teeth. She kept repeating in her heart, dog.
Men.
A man. She was a charming fiendish cultivator, so how could she be a flirtatious slut? You guys are the flirtatious bitches. Your whole family is a bunch of coquettish bitches. Taking a deep breath, Xue Jie suppressed the irritation in her heart and changed her target. Star Wolf. Although this person isn't as famous as Pejun and Ingmei, he is still Di Mingju's most trusted confidant. Most importantly, the Star Wolf was hot-tempered and easily angered, and its temperament was impetuous and straightforward. This kind of person might not look easy to deal with, but in fact, he was the easiest to seduce. However, the pitiful image from before couldn't be used anymore. Xue Jie slowly straightened her back and flipped her long hair. Then, she slightly tugged at the clothes in front of her chest, revealing her exquisite, snow-white collarbone. The originally innocent and pitiful little girl immediately turned into a mature and alluring demoness. She giggled and walked to Xinglang's side, her eyes like silk. Brother Xinglang, are you going to watch your partner bully me like this? According to Xue Jie's experience, the man in front of her would definitely be stunned. Then, as soon as his eyes met hers, he was affected by her skill, charm. His face immediately turned red, and he stuttered. Even though his mouth was saying unpleasant words, his little heart was already beating for her. However, the confident Xue Jie was dumbfounded when she saw Xinglang's expression. Xinglang's expression was incomparably ugly. The way he looked at her was like looking at a pile of trash. However, it was also mixed with the fear and nausea of having terrifying memories evoked. What kind of reaction was this? The snow girl didn't give up. She couldn't help but puff out her chest and move closer. She reached out her hand to touch the Star Wolf's face. Who knew that Star Wolf would roar in anger and directly kick out?
Bang.
This kick is even more ruthless than Han Ye's. The snow girl prostrated herself on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Elder Chong and Han Yingmei are a little baffled. Why is Star Wolf reacting so strongly? Suddenly, Han Yi seems to have thought of something and bursts into laughter. Xinglang, did you remember that time when Miss June wore women's clothes and drew pictures of beautiful women? Oh, that's right. I remember you were sent by Miss June to lead a befuddled life. Shut up. Shut up. Ha ha ha. Xue Jie trembled as she crawled up from the ground. Her beautiful eyes were about to spit fire. Her enchanting and perfect body. She had never failed in her charm skill before. How could it be useless here in the polar domain? The point is that she hasn't even seen Di Mingju's face yet. Had her beauty deteriorated? Not beautiful? Charm lost its effect. Xue Jie felt that either she had gone crazy, or the people of the polar domain had gone crazy. She, a beauty that could turn the world upside down, could not even be compared to a man, and was actually treated like trash. So the only one she could seduce now was, cough, Miss Xue Jie, are you alright? As for what you just said, I'll report it to Jun Shang. Chapter 3891. I can't bring myself to do it. I'm too old and ugly. This old lady, a succubus, also has principles and integrity, okay? Before Elder Chom could finish, Xue Jie roared, I won't do it. Then, he disappeared from the room as if he was flying. Soon, someone came to report that the demon messenger, Xue Jie, had left angrily. Elder Chong and the others looked at each other. So, what is Miss Xue Jie doing here? Starwolf said, Who cares what she's doing here? I just want to know how Lord is doing now. Elder Chong took out Pejuan's soul lamp. The soul fire on it was still dim, as if it would go out at any time. He couldn't help but frown. Lord and Pejuan will be fine. Although he said that, for some reason, Elder Chong had a bad feeling in his heart. He couldn't help but take out the Hunyuan River compass. The compass was already buzzing, but there were no special changes. However, this normal was like the surging waves hidden under a calm lake. When the time was right, it would set off a huge wave. Cultivation continent, Debii temple.
Dang, dang, dang.
In the empty temple, the dull and distant sound of the bell echoed again and again. A man in a kasaya stood at the entrance of the temple and looked in the direction of the bell. His expression was solemn, and his eyes flickered with a complicated light. Master, this day has finally come. He was wearing a kasaya and had a shaved head. However, he didn't hold any golden alms or magic staff in his hand, and his tone didn't sound like a monk at all. The real spirit bell has finally rung. Amipa. An old voice came from behind the man in the kasaya. It was accompanied by the sound of a wooden fish. It was calm and steady, as if it had the power to calm people's hearts. Impermanence is the law of life and death. Life and death are the law of life and death, and nirvana is joy. Fate and karma. Everything has its own destiny. What's going to come will come eventually. The man in the kasaya closed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Yes, what's going to come will come eventually. However, this time, I won't let it escape again." Floating Island. After the battle at Blue Thearka's camp, the entire floating island was reshuffled. No one had expected that in the end of this battle, the 3 alliances, 6 clans, 8 sects, and even the Lan clan empire would actually become the losers. The only place that rose after the war was Liberty City. This small city that appeared not long ago, and their incredibly young city lord, had become the unparalleled overlord of the floating island in just a year. The news that the floating island would fall within 5 years spread like wildfire on the island. Some were hesitant, some were desperate, and some were actively preparing. Some people heard the news and rushed to the vicinity of Liberty City in a hurry, hoping to get their protection. However, Mu Yen and the 6 carefree sons were not Lan Chushi. They would protect their loved ones and friends at all costs. But he would never be hindered by unimportant people. Do you want to threaten them? Do you want to use moral coercion? Hee. In that case, there was no need to wait for the floating island to be destroyed. Did she really think that the titles of She-Devil and Unfettered 7 Devils were just for show? After suffering for a few times, Li Tianlan finally understood. These people naturally knew that Liberty City wouldn't care about their unreasonable cries and pleas at all. Like 10,000 years ago, when one person sacrificed himself to create a smooth path for all of them, it would never happen again. Chapter 3892. Because the only 2 people who were willing to sacrifice themselves to save them had already been killed by them. Luoyu cut off the connection with Wei Mian, a mocking smile on his face. He could not help but reach out to touch the silver halberd hanging at his waist. As he touched it, the silver halberd shone lightly, as if it was jumping with joy. Luoyu whispered, "Lan Chushi, have you ever regretted it?" He regretted giving without complaint, only to raise a bunch of ingrates. He regretted being held hostage by morality, only to be separated by death from his loved ones. Whether you regret it or not, whether I am your reincarnation or not, I will not live like you. Continuously becoming stronger and protecting my loved ones, this is the path that belongs to me, Lan Luoyu. He murmured in a low voice. Suddenly, the communication amulet he had just placed in his storage space lit up again. As soon as his divine consciousness entered the amulet, Luoyu heard eldest senior brother's anxious voice. "Junior sister is in trouble. Everyone, gather at the northernmost Bohai Sea."
What?
What happened to 6th senior sister? Eldest senior brother? Eldest senior brother? The communication amulet dimmed quickly. Luoyu guessed that eldest senior brother could not wait any longer. He was extremely anxious and did not dare to delay any longer. He summoned the divine beast Bai Fong and sped towards the northern horizon. Ever since the battle at Blue Thearka's camp, the floating island had been in a state of panic due to the destruction of the heaven-reaching halberd. But in reality, the cultivators on the island did not know that the Unfettered 7, whom they were begging to ride on, had never stopped advancing. The 7 of them knew that their current cultivation was far from enough to ascend to the immortal cultivation continent. But more than ever, they wanted to become stronger. So the 7 of them traveled together, searching for mystic realms and fortuitous opportunities to strengthen themselves and train their Taoist hearts. During this time, Luo Yu did not dare to delay even a moment. He did not know if it was because of the silver halberd, but his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. In just a few months, without any external help, his cultivation had broken through the earth creation realm and reached the beginner stage of the sea-splitting realm. Everyone on the floating island would be so shocked that their jaws would drop to the ground if they heard about this rate of growth. But Luo Yu believed that he was not the fastest in the unfettered sect. It was even possible for him to be at the bottom. Because every single one of the unfettered 7 were peerless geniuses, monstrous geniuses that couldn't be evaluated with common sense. If his speed was slightly slower, he would be left behind by his senior brothers and sisters. Especially 6th senior sister. Among the Xiao Yao 7, except for the eccentric 3rd brother, who isn't desperately trying to catch up to Mayan's pace. He's afraid that if he's not careful, he'll be left behind or become Mayan's burden. However, Luo Yu had never imagined that the powerful 6th sister would encounter danger. Yun Ruhan placed 6th senior sister's soul lamp in her hand. If not for the obvious change in her soul lamp, Yun Ruhan wouldn't have been so anxious and scared that she didn't even have time to explain to Luyu. 6th senior sister, nothing must happen to you. The fiery red bird streaked across the sky like a meteor, flying towards the north. At the same time, on the floating island, there were 5 other streaks of light that were also flying in the same direction. North of the floating island, the shore of the Bohai Sea. Run. Why did you stop running? Jun Mayan, didn't you say that you want to have a fair fight with me? Do you think you can still escape from me this time? Chapter 3893. A sword light whizzes over like lightning. The sand on the ground, along with the surrounding waves, instantly tumbles. A row of huge ancient trees collapsed in response, revealing the figures that were fleeing quickly within. Mu Yan leaps backwards, avoiding the sand and the huge waves, but she is still injured by the sword energy. There is a deep wound on her left shoulder, blood gushing out. Madman. Mu Yan covers the wound on her shoulder, staring at the man slowly walking towards her, clenching her teeth. In order to find an opportunity to advance, Mu Yan comes to the northernmost shore of the floating island, the Bohai Sea. According to Qi Huang, there are no materials to repair the Tian Mo Qin here. But there is a trace of a mortal power similar to the Tian Mo Qin. Mu Yan looks for it all the way and finally finds a strange fruit tree on a small island in the middle of the Bohai Sea. This fruit tree is very strange. From the outside, it looks just like an ordinary shui-ling fruit. But there are complex lines on the skin. And that kind of aura makes Mu Yan remember the strange ancient tree she found in the snow forest where the Bathing Moon Pavilion is located. At that time, she relied on this ancient tree to cure the poison of the unclean abyss. Later, she found out that the ancient tree is one of the materials needed for the great array that little martial uncle is looking for. But in the end, even after Luo Yunxiao found the yin-yang twin hearts, the 12 demons of Dutian, and the 36 stars, Mu Yan still couldn't figure out what's so special about that tree. She only vaguely knows that this tree should be affected by the holy stone of the Bathing Moon Pavilion, which is the Nightmare Stone. That's why it changed. So this shui-ling fruit also changed, because it was contaminated with the Nightmare Stone? Mu Yan looks at the fruit with strange patterns in her hand, somewhat afraid to eat it. I won't be like the people of the Horton tribe when I eat it and become a crazy walking corpse, right? These words make Qi Huang angry. Bastard Jun Mu Yan, do you think that this sage will harm you? Eat it or not, believe it or not, don't give me the fruit. I, your father, don't want you to eat it. Seeing that Qi Huang has even forgotten to say that this sage has, Mu Yan also knows that he is angry. She doesn't dare to ask anymore and quickly eats the fruit. As soon as she ate it, she felt the world spin around her, and then she fainted. When he woke up again, the entire island was flooded by seawater. Half of her body was submerged in the water, and her mouth was filled with a salty taste. However, What was inconceivable was that her cultivation, which had just broken through to the sea-splitting realm, had actually directly reached the peak of the sea-splitting realm. He was only one step away from the heaven-shattering tier. And the most terrifying thing was that at this moment, her dantian was full of energy, so full that it was about to overflow. Mu Yan had a premonition that she would only need a few days at most to reach the shattering heaven tier. And this was far from the complete release of the fruit's energy. Even though she already knew that Qi Huang wouldn't lie to her, Mayan is still stunned by the effect of this fruit. Qi Huang, what kind of fruit is this? Is there really no problem with this speed of advancement? She felt that her dantian was about to explode. Spiritual energy, immortal energy, and even dark energy were mixed together. Mayan is even incessantly fusing the three forces into divine power and pouring it into the Tian Mo Qin. In a short period of time, all the Shun musician skills have been upgraded by one level. But even like this, the fruit's energy was still far from being consumed. With her every move, this energy would overflow from the surface of her body and meridians because it was too full. It was quite wasteful. Chapter 3894. This was also the first time that Mu Yan had experienced the trouble of having her body's energy surge. Pain and happiness. Qi Huang gloated and said, "If you don't cultivate well, your dantian will be like a pool, unable to hold much spiritual energy and immortal energy. Even the divine power that can be transformed every day is limited. You've wasted so much energy of the divine fruit." The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. Her dantian was more than 100 times bigger than an ordinary cultivator of the same level. Even so, he was still compared to a pawn by Qi Huang. "Qi Xiao Huang, do you have some kind of misunderstanding about pawns?" Mu Yan suddenly realized something. Divine fruit? Qi Huang, you said that this fruit is a divine fruit? Do you know the origin of this fruit? Qi Huang immediately shut his mouth. When Mayan asks anxiously, he snappily says, "Don't ask, Benzun doesn't know either." After a pause, he said listlessly, "I can't remember." Mu Yan has just returned to the coast from that half-submerged island, and she can feel the downcast mood of her artifact spirit. She entered the space, stroked Seven Brilliance's head, and smiled warmly. "If you can't remember, then don't remember. It's no big deal. In the future, there will be plenty of things for you to reminisce about. As for those memories, forget it." Qi Huang stared blankly for a moment. In his mind, he kept repeating the phrase, "There will be plenty of things for you to savor in the future." The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. He immediately thinks of something and suddenly flies into a rage. "Jun Mayan, who let you touch Benzun's head?" "Benzun will tell you again. Benzun is an ancient artifact spirit, not a child." "Bastard." Mu Yan was all smiles, completely unmoved. She caressed the little chick's soft fur as she said perfunctorily, "Yes, yes, how could our Lord Artifact Spirit be a child?" Qi Huang became even angrier. "Don't think that I can't see that you're just faking it." As he spoke, Qi Huang's face suddenly revealed a pained expression. His entire body curled up and squatted down. Qi Huang, what's wrong?" Mu Yan suddenly rushes over. He saw Qi Huang clutching his chest tightly, his face pale, and his lips purple. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Qi Huang, what's going on? Where does it hurt?" Mu Yan grabs Qi Huang's hand, wanting to check on his condition. However, in the next moment, she was stunned, because her hand had pierced through Qi Huang's body. Seven Brilliance turned into his soul form. How could this be? Mayan's heart surges with a huge panic. Ever since her Tian Mo Qin's second upgrade, Seven Brilliance has always been in a physical state. He could even wear the clothes she had bought from Tianguang ruins. What exactly had happened to cause Seven Brilliance to be in so much pain that he couldn't even condense his physical body? Suddenly, Mu Yan thinks of something. Young sect uncle. Did something happen to Uncle Master? However, Qi Huang had already fainted on the ground and could no longer answer her. Mayan's heart is burning with anxiety. Her whole person is like an ant on a hot pan. She couldn't even heal 7 brilliance who was in his soul form.
No.
It was still possible. At least she can play the zither and use the shun musician skill, calm the soul. Mu Yan quickly summons the Tian Mo Qin. Just as she's about to play, a familiar and cold voice comes from outside the space. Junmayan, I know you're here, come out. Immediately after, the entire space violently shakes, and bits of grass fly everywhere. The towering book tower shakes violently, as if it could collapse at any moment. Chapter 3895. Little Inghua screams and rushes to hide under Mu Yan. Little Phoenix and Jinwu quickly fly in the direction of the book pagoda. Xiao Bao is cultivating in seclusion inside. When Mu Yan eats the divine fruit, she gives a small bite to Xiao Bao. This is also what Qi Huang said. Xiao Bao has an immortal body, so the divine fruit is useful to him, but too much is as bad as not enough. Because an immortal body automatically absorbs all energy without filtering it. There is poison on the divine fruit. A small amount can be eliminated by the heart-piercing, life-prolonging curse, but if there is too much, Xiao Bao may be fine, but Li Weiran will definitely be tortured to death by the poison. Qi Huang certainly wants that pretty boy Li Weiran to live a life worse than death, but he also can't bear to see Xiao Bao suffer. After Xiao Bao eats a small bite of the divine fruit, he directly enters a state of enlightenment. Just like Mu Yan sleeping on the island, Xiao Bao is also unconscious, unaware of the outside world. But his cultivation is advancing by leaps and bounds at a tremendous pace. Mu Yan even feels that Xiao Bao's Dantian and Sea of Consciousness are about to be as vast as her own. She sees that the divine fruit doesn't harm Xiao Bao, so she puts him in the space book pagoda to cultivate. She also orders Jinwu and Little Phoenix to guard him. That's why the space is shaking, and Jinwu and Little Phoenix immediately rush over to guard him. Mu Yan vaguely hears who the voice outside the space belongs to, but she still can't believe it. But she knows very well that she must not stay in the space any longer. Otherwise, with just one more sword, the space will be completely torn apart, and Qi Huang, who is in a coma in pain, will have nowhere to hide. Mu Yan quickly leaves the space, and when she sees the man in black standing not far away, her pupils can't help but shrink. Even though she has already mentally prepared herself. Seeing the person in front of her, Mu Yan can't help but be inexplicably shocked. Ning Su, you are still alive. Ning Su sneers and slowly walks forward. With every step, the sand under his feet sinks, creating a deep hole. What? Are you disappointed to see me alive?
Mu Yan.
Mu Yan frowns. How did you wake up? Ning Kunshan once said that once half of Ning Su's body is killed, he will sleep for at least 100 years. Even though Ning Kunshan, that cunning fox, was full of lies. But Mu Yan believes that he isn't lying about this. Otherwise, with Ning Kunshan's cautious and suspicious personality, how could he have allowed Ning Su to lie in the ice cave without taking any precautions? Ning Su sneered, his face revealing a mocking and disgusted expression. I knew Ning Kunshan's plan from the start, so when I was cultivating the soundless clone, I already left a way out for myself. When he tries to take over my body, the hint hidden in soundless clone will awaken me and devour his cultivation instead. He will suffer the consequences of his actions and be doomed eternally. Recalling the look of disbelief and despair on Ning Kunshan's face before he died, Ning Su could not help but laugh out loud. Mu Yan looked at his crazy expression and couldn't help but clench the 7 absolute sword in her hand. She could sense that the Ning Su in front of her was very dangerous, very dangerous. His strength had far surpassed that of when he was on the road of cultivation. Compared to back then, Mu Yan's current strength had advanced by leaps and bounds. Looking at Ning Su, she felt that she had no chance of winning. How strong was Ning Su now? Profound Immortal High Stage? Or the peak of Profound Immortal? Trying to guess what my cultivation is? Chapter 3896. Ning Su suddenly stopped laughing and looked straight at Mayan, then said slowly, I can tell you, I'm an immortal king. I'm already an immortal king now. Mayan's heart suddenly jumped, and her palm holding the 7 absolute swords couldn't help sweating. He'd actually reached the immortal king realm. No wonder she couldn't see the depth of Ningsu's strength even though she was about to reach the heaven-breaking realm. Ningsu couldn't help but look at the sea, his expression blank and lost. After a long while, he murmured, "When you destroyed half of my clones on the road of cultivation, I hated you to the bone. But when I slept in the endless darkness, I couldn't help but think, you really are Yen Xian's daughter. So outstanding, so powerful, and so heartless. You can kill me, and you have such powerful talent and will. Maybe you can do what I can't. I worked hard for so many years and tried everything, but I couldn't save Ning Yen Xian from the Great Jade Reincarnation Formation. But maybe it's different for you." Ning Su's voice slowly became hoarse. "I think if you can really save Yen Xian, then I'll forgive you. It doesn't matter if you're Jun Shiyuan's daughter. It doesn't matter if you're a demon as long as the only light in his life could be returned to him." But Ning Su suddenly turned his head, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at her, as if he wanted to tear her apart. "But you actually failed. Not only did you fail to save her, you even let her die, her soul scattered, and she will never be able to reincarnate. My everything, my life, all my prayers and waiting, it's all gone. Ning Kunshan deserves to die, the Ning family deserves to die, Jun Shiyuan deserves to die, Jun Mayan, you deserve to die too. Since Yen Xian is already gone, then all of you go down to accompany her. She's already dead. What right do you have to live in this world?" Mayan looked at the crazy man in front of her with a complicated expression. She had heard about Ning Su's past from Ning Kunshan. No one could imagine what kind of life Ning Su had led in the few years he had been captured by the demon clan. Later, when he returned to the Ning family, how did he survive the taunts and bullying of the Ning family, as well as the hatred of his grandfather? In those dark days, Ning Yanxin was the only one who pulled him out of the swamp of hell. She gave him the warmth of a mother, a sister, and a close relative. He was greedy for this warmth, and then it gradually turned into a paranoid and twisted desire for possession. If his mother was still alive, she might be able to guide this stubborn child to slowly walk down the right path. However, the Ning family's greed and selfishness, as well as Ning Yanxin's unexpected meeting with Jun Shiyuan, ruined everything. In the end, Ning Su had become what he hated the most, like a crazy devil. Meeting Mu Yan's gaze, Ning Su suddenly becomes hysterical and irritable. "Why are you looking at me like that? Am I that unworthy of your trust and reliance?
Why?
Why did you betray me?" Mu Yan knits her brows and is about to speak. All of a sudden, Ning Su laughs maniacally. "Jun Mayan, do you know why I only came to find you now?" TSK. This guy has now recognized her as Jun Mayan. Moreover, when they first met on the road of cultivation, he clearly had a cold and taciturn temperament. But now he's chattering endlessly, and his words are even incoherent. Chapter 3897. From the looks of it, even though he had woken up earlier, his mind was no longer clear. Mu Yan looked at him coldly. Ning Su continued, "When I swallowed Ning Kunshan's cultivation, I thought about going to find you, but I gave up later. After all, you're Jun Mu Yan, Ning Yanxin's daughter. Back then, on the road of cultivation, your cultivation was so much lower than mine, but in the end, I still died at your hands. So this time, how could I let my guard down? This time, as long as I make a move, I will drag you down with me to the Yellow Springs. I will never give you a chance to make a comeback." Mu Yan didn't say anything, and was on full alert. However, Ning Su's next words made her pale with fright, almost unable to maintain her Dao heart. "Of course, the most important thing is that I think that the Ning family should all go down to accompany Yen Xian. How can there be fish that slip through the net and live well in this world? If they are not all reunited, Yen Xian will not be happy. So, while I cultivated and consolidated my realm, I turned this floating island upside down. Finally, I found those 2 fish that slipped through the net on the shore of the Bohai Sea. Mu Yan's eyes suddenly widened and she shouted angrily, Ningyu, what did you do to Ningyu and uncle? Ha, what's wrong? Ning Su seemed to have heard a stupid question. Do you still need to ask? Of course. I'm sending them to accompany Enrich. Saying that, he casually tossed the two corpses in front of Mu Yan. These two couldn't even be called corpses, because they were just two dried corpses. Their facial features couldn't be seen at all. And as the corpses were thrown in front of Mu Yan, they actually cracked inch by inch and turned into powder, mixing with the sand. The clothes that were wrapped around the corpses also rotted and fell apart. Only two blood-patterned bells fell on the beach, making a tinkling sound. Mu Yan's lips trembled as she said in disbelief, They are… Ningyu, Ning Zhongbai, I said before, as long as you are a member of the Ning family, you must go down to accompany Enrich. Finding them and then devouring their power is really not easy. Ning Su smiled and said, But hard work always pays off, doesn't it? After devouring Ningyu's cultivation, I have officially stepped into the immortal king realm. Mayan, this time, I finally have confidence that I can definitely kill you. Mu Yan's mind is buzzing. She recalled the carefree woman she met in the primordial immortal cave abode. She thought of her cousin who stood by her side with a sword and never retreated when the Ning family was besieged on all sides. He recalled the bright and beautiful smile on her face when she said that the two of them were still friends. She even guessed from Little Chick's rambling story that Ningyu might like her little martial uncle. He had even thought about matchmaking the two of them if they were fated to meet again in the future. And her uncle, although she was irresolute, selfish, and even wanted to sacrifice her life in exchange for her mother's. However, when Ning Kunshin was about to kill her, he had also rushed over to protect her without any regard for anything else. These two people were perhaps the only family he had left in this world. But now, Ning Su was saying that he had killed them. There was no sound, not even a skeleton was left behind. Mu Yan crouched down and stroked the ashes mixed with the sand, as well as the two ice-cold blood-patterned bells. Her body couldn't stop trembling. Chapter 3898. Are you feeling sorry for them? Ning Su sneers. There's no need for that, because the Ning family is selfish and disgusting. They wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice Yanxin for their own survival. Did you forget how Ning Zhongbai sold you out and made you a sacrifice? I thought you'd be happy to see their end. Those whose cultivation I devoured would turn into fine powder. I spent a lot of effort to keep them in their original state so that you could see their miserable appearance when they died. The Ning family is selfish and cruel. The Ning family's bloodline is filthy and stinky. They only have themselves to blame for ending up like this. Enough. Mu Yan jerks her head up, her eyes red and fierce as she glares at the man in front of her. Ning Su, don't be immersed in your own dreams, and don't act like you're deeply in love. Have you forgotten that you also had a part in the death of my mother, Ning Yanxin? Nonsense. Mu Yan, if you hadn't forcefully brought my mother back to the Ning family, would she have become a sacrifice for the virtual jade reincarnation array? If you hadn't informed the Ning family, would my mother and Jun Shiyuan, who had already eloped successfully, have been captured and brought back to the Ning family? Ning Kunshin, Ning Fuxing is indeed the murderer who killed my mother, but you're the knife that pushed her into the abyss. Ning Su, do you think Ning Yanxin hates you or misses you when she died? No, she doesn't. She doesn't remember you at all. The sound of a zither reverberates between heaven and earth. From the moment you cruelly brought her back to the Ning family, you returned kindness with enmity and made her fall into a situation worse than death. The relationship between you two has already been severed. Ning Su, you're nothing in Ning Yanxin's heart. No love, no hate, is the deepest torture and revenge. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. You're talking nonsense. Yanxin said that she would always hold my hand. She said that she wouldn't let me be alone again, that she wouldn't let me be bullied and tortured again. Ning Su's face is ferocious as he roars hoarsely. Ning Yanxin, why did you lie to me? You clearly said that you wouldn't let go of my hand. Why did you fall in love with Jun Shiyuan? Why did you elope with the demons? I didn't want you to die, I just wanted you to stay. Ah.
Puff.
Ning-Su spat out a mouthful of blood, his body swaying. The zither music that reverberated between heaven and earth entangled his divine soul like a curse, causing him to feel as if he had fallen into a distant nightmare. However, this mouthful of blood was spat out. However, Ning-Su's state of mind slowly returned to normal, and the expression on his face also returned to its former coldness and indifference. Mu-Yen sighs softly in her heart, and has the phantom doppelganger stop playing the Tian Mo Chin. What a pity. Just a little more, and she would have been able to subdue him without a fight. She would have made Ning-Su immersed in fleeting like a dream, never to wake up again. In the end, the difference in cultivation was too great. Due to Ning Yu's and Ning Zhongbai's deaths, her emotions were unstable, so she missed the best opportunity. Ning-Su said in a low voice, I once underestimated you on the Xiozhen continent and thought that I wouldn't make the same mistake this time, but I didn't expect that in the end, I still underestimated you. Jun Mayan, come, display the power that you used in the Xiozhen continent to destroy the heavens and exterminate the earth. Today, either I drag you down to hell with me to accompany Yen Xian or you kill me and end this. Mu-Yen laughs bitterly in her heart. The power of the 5 elements. Chapter 3899. Mu-Yen actually wants to use it, but the problem is that her power of law has already been sealed by Diming-Ju. Moreover, once she used the power of laws, the heavenly lightning was not something she could withstand. He slowly stroked the void spirit ring. Just as he was about to insert his divine sense, he retracted it. Mayan slowly straightens her back, the corners of her mouth hooking up in a disdainful smile. All right, Ning-Su, let's have a good fight today. If you want to kill me and drag me to hell with you, it won't be that easy. As soon as he finished speaking, Astral Field was released. The phantom doppelganger lightly flicked her fingers, and the sound of the zither resounded through the world. The 7 swords of the 7 despair lined up behind her. The crystal-clear 7 Severance primal sword in her hand emitted a dazzling radiance. At this moment of life and death, he knew that the enemy in front of him was powerful and terrifying. But Mu-Yen chooses to fight. Because the moment she was about to spin the void spirit ring, she suddenly realized something. She could not retreat. Once she retreated and became afraid of battle, she couldn't help but want to rely on him, couldn't help but become weak. In this way, there will come a day when she will become Diming-Ju's burden. He wouldn't be able to catch up to Little Treasure and the unfettered 7 sons. This wasn't the result she wanted, and it wasn't Jun Mayan's heart of the sword either. Ning-Su was stunned at first, then a strange light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the malevolence, jealousy, and pain on his face disappeared completely. All that was left was a frenzied battle intent. Mu-Yen made a solemn vow to accept the challenge, but she didn't expect that she had still underestimated Ning-Su's strength. There was an insurmountable gap between the peak of the sea-splitting realm and the immortal king realm. Just like Yin Yuanyi. Even though Yin Yuanyi's strength had been enhanced by a lot of natural treasures, she was still no match for him. Because from the mysterious life tier to the heaven-shattering tier, one could only be called a golden immortal. Above golden immortals were mystic immortals. Above the Xian immortal was the immortal king. With the cultivation of the heaven-breaking state, it was already extremely difficult to defeat a Xian immortal, let alone a celestial king. Mu-Yen directly broke through the sea-splitting realm during the battle and reached the heaven-breaking realm. However, it was useless, because the heaven-shattering realm was still only a golden immortal. In the cultivation continent, an immortal king could crush a golden immortal as easily as crushing an ant. Mu-Yan's 7 absolute swords had indeed caused damage to Ning-Su. However, these injuries healed in a short period of time. In the nick of time, Mayan still burns the talisman that Diming-Ju left for her, just to block Ning-Su's fatal blow. Ning-Su had been seriously injured by the treasure talisman. This time, his injuries could not heal on their own. But it was not fatal. This lunatic didn't even look at his arm that had been blown off and chased after him. Muyen has no choice but to turn the void spirit ring. However, she is shocked to discover that she can't sense Di Mingju's existence. Such a situation had only occurred once. It was when Li Weiran schemed against Di Mingju, and he went to the Yanwu continent. Mayan's heart surges with an indescribable panic. What the hell happened? Why did she lose her connection with Di Mingju? Could it be that he's injured and in a desperate situation? Was he afraid of causing harm to himself, so he unilaterally cut off the connection? Just a moment ago, he was filled with battle intent, but at this moment, it was replaced by panic and fear. Even when she was beaten by Ningsu to the point where she didn't even have the strength to fight back, she had never been so afraid. Di Mingju, you promised me that you wouldn't leave me, didn't you? Chapter 3900. Found you. Ningsu's deep voice came to her ears. Jun Mayan, don't run anymore, obediently follow me to hell. Your mother, Mayan Xian, are still waiting for us in the underworld? The demon-slaying sword was raised high, flashing with a glaring cold light. Mayan's pupils contracted, her mind went blank. But the next moment, a blood-red figure appeared in front of her. Then, with a puff, a slender, white hand pierced through Ningsu's chest, coming out from his back. In that palm, which seemed to be carved from white jade, was a beating heart. The 5 fingers suddenly exerted force, and the heart shattered into a bloody mist, scattering in all directions. Ningsu slowly lowered his head, looking at the palm that had pierced through his chest, an incredulous expression on his face. Why cough, but it's fine. Yan Xian, I can go see you now. I really miss you. Ningsu slowly lowered his head, losing his breath. When he closed his eyes, it was as if he had returned to that dark and smelly room. A pair of snow-white hands pushed open the door, letting in the sunlight from the window. He heard a gentle female voice say to him, Sue, don't be afraid. I'm your aunt. I'll take you home. If only time could stop at that moment. If only life was as good as when they first met. At this time, Mayan couldn't be bothered to look at Ningsu. She slightly widened her eyes at the figure in front of her, unconsciously muttering, Qi. Huang, the red-clothed youth in front of her, seemed to have heard her voice. He slowly turned his head, giving her a coquettish and cruel smile. Clang, clang, clang. Faintly, Mayan heard a strange bell sound reverberating in her mind. The sky darkened bit by bit. The waves crashed again and again on the beach riddled with holes. Not far from the Bohai Sea was a dense forest with lush vegetation. At this time, Mayan had already been walking through it for several hours. She was both mentally and physically exhausted, but still couldn't find the person she was looking for. Qi Huang, if you hear me, can you answer me? Goo Gigi. Brother Red Pants, come out quickly. Dazzling firebird avatars fly in from all directions, eventually converging into a beautiful and dazzling fire phoenix in front of Mayan. Qiuqiu said with a sobbing tone, Beautiful sister, Qiuqiu's fire phoenix avatar has searched the entire forest, but it can't find any trace of Brother Demon King. Qiuqiu is really useless. Muyen sighs, and her legs go soft. She doesn't care about being dirty and directly sits on a rock covered in wet moss. She had been searching around the forest for 8 to 10 hours. From the moment the sky was bright to the moment the curtain of night fell. At first, he leaped over the entire forest, but later, he burrowed into the humid and hot forest filled with snakes, insects, rats, and ants, searching inch by inch. But even though she tried her best to use Myriad Plants Cry, to mobilize all the spiritual plants to search together, or even Little Phoenix send out all the Fire Phoenix clones, she still couldn't find Qi Huang's figure. Mayan wipes away the cold sweat on her forehead. Looking at the quiet surroundings, she couldn't help but shout again. Qi Huang, come out. I promise I won't argue with you about what happened just now, and I won't use the itchy meat set meal on you, okay? However, the surroundings were quiet, and no one responded to her call. She felt a sharp pain on her left shoulder. Beautiful sister, You're bleeding again? Charming witch doctor, heaven-defying baby, black-bellied dad. Please collect. Chapter 30-901. Muyen looked down and saw that the wound that she had just healed with the skill of Art Essence Yellow was now entwined with black gas, as if there was an invisible hand tearing the wound apart inch by inch. Moreover, this black chi was still invading her heart meridian and sea of consciousness. Muyen takes out the Tian Mo Chin and slowly plucks the strings. As the power of the zither flowed through her limbs and bones, the entangling black gas seemed to have met its nemesis and slowly retreated unwillingly. The originally hideous wound also healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, Muyen knew that after a while, the black gas would once again rise from the ashes. And this wound was not left by Ning Su. The wound that Ning Su had left on her body had long since healed. The wound on her shoulder that could not heal was left by Qi Huang. Muyen's thoughts unconsciously returned to a few hours ago. Seeing Qi Huang effortlessly crush Ning Su's heart, Muyen was so shocked that she could hardly think. But she quickly came back to her senses and said anxiously, 7 brilliants, return to the space. She did not have the time to ask why Qi Huang, who was supposed to be unconscious in the space, had suddenly woken up. He was only worried that 7 brilliance's existence would be discovered. However, the usually arrogant but soft-hearted young man in front of her raised the corners of his mouth again, and the smile on his face became even more devilish. His snow-white skin, exquisite and beautiful facial features, and his red robes made the youth's appearance so captivating that it could take one's soul away. But for no reason, a chill rises in Muyen's heart. It was as if the person in front of him wasn't 7 brilliants. It was a monster she had never seen before. My esteemed master, are you afraid of me? Step by step, he walks towards Muyen. Her red robe dragged on the ground, stirring up some dust. This proved that 7 brilliants was a real entity. However, the scorching sun shone high up in the sky and landed on the young man's body, but the ground was not illuminated at all. Muyen couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva and hissed, "Who are you?"
Me?
Of course, I am 7 brilliants. The youth seemed to have heard the funniest joke and could not help but laugh softly. His voice was clear and melodious, between a teenager and an adult. It was especially moving. Master, don't tell me you don't remember me? Muyen feels that her whole body is shrouded in a kind of terrible pressure. The youth in front of her clearly hadn't done anything, but she felt a pair of ice-cold hands strangling her throat, as if he could take her life at any time. Qi Huang has already arrived in front of Muyen. The youth's figure was thin and tall. At this time, he bent down and whispered in Muyen's ear, like a lover's soft words, "Master, I wonder if the words you said back then still count." Muyen moves her lips. What words? As soon as the words left her mouth, she realized how difficult it was for her to speak. Didn't Master say it before? I am your most beloved artifact spirit, and you even said that one day you would let me see the light of day again and let me walk proudly under the sun. I wonder if Master's words still count now. A drop of cold sweat slowly slid down his forehead. Muyen only feels that this time, it's not only her throat, even her heart seems to be clenched tightly by a hand. Even when she was facing Ning Su just now, she did not feel that death was so close to her. Chapter 30-902. Of course, it's also thanks to that idiot's worry for you, his strong desire to break through the seal, to save your life, that I can once again occupy this body. Right now, there's only one thing left, and that is to get rid of the Tian Mo Chin shackles. As long as I kill you, my master, I'll be free henceforth. Muyen's pupils suddenly contract. The youth's clear and melodious voice also carries a cruel smile. Jun Muyen, didn't you always say that I'm your most important relative and that you want to fulfill my wish? Since that's the case, then obediently go and die. Before his voice falls, Muyen feels a sharp pain coming from her heart. She looks down aghast. She doesn't know when, but she sees that strands of black gas have converged on her chest. It's slowly wriggling, gathering into the shape of a palm. Pain. A heart-tearing, lung-splitting, bone-tearing pain is indescribable. All the power in her body is firmly frozen at this moment, and she doesn't even have the slightest ability to resist. Just then, the Tian Emochin suddenly hums and vibrates. Immediately after, she sees a green light fly out from the Tian Emochin, directly piercing Qi Huang's chest. Qi Huang lets out a cry of pain. The ghost claw that was about to crush Mayan's heart unexpectedly deviates from its position and ruthlessly grabs her shoulder, leaving a wound so deep that the bone can be seen. Mayan doesn't even have the time to groan, and she faints from the pain. Before she loses consciousness, she sees the green light penetrating Qi Huang's body, and he falls to the ground. It's a small dark green sword. It's the origin sword that youngest martial uncle left for her, Dragon Abyss. Next, Mayan's soul sinks into a dark swamp that she can't break free from. She doesn't know how long she's been sleeping, her consciousness is muddled, and the darkness is endless. This feeling is really too despairing and frightening. Even with her powerful mind, she's on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, she can still hear the intermittent sound of the zither from time to time, so that she doesn't forget who she is. She also doesn't know how long she's been trapped in this boundless darkness. Mayan hears a woman's voice. Huh? What are you? It was followed by a hoarse voice. What are you? The woman laughed. I'm not a thing, Pui. I'm a human. My name is Bailey Luine. Are you the artifact spirit of the Sither? Bailey Luine? Mayan is startled. Then it seems like something heavily smashes open the black fog in front of her. This allowed her to see the scene in front of her clearly. It was not accurate to call it a scene because she could only see two blurry shadows. A dusty zither and the hazy figure of a young girl. The Tian Emochin continues to transmit a hoarse voice. Are you?
Tool.
Spirit? Is this kid stupid? Although the artifact spirits that have just gained sentience are relatively childish, they can only be repeaters. Even in the artifact spirit world, it can only be considered a mudslide, right? The young girl picked up the zither and casually plucked the strings. She giggled and said, Forget it. Since you are so pitiful, I will take you out for a stroll and let you gain some knowledge. Otherwise, if you encounter other artifact spirits in the future, won't it be very embarrassing for you? Mayan stares blankly. Could it be that this hoarse voice is the earliest Qi Huang? This is the first encounter between Qi Huang and Bailey Luine. Chapter 3903. It's also a blurry and chaotic scene. The young girl stands in front of the Tian Emochin, her fingers gently plucking the strings, her voice carrying a bit of sorrow. Qi Huang, so you're not the Tian Emochin spirit, but what should we do now? If people find out about your existence, I'm afraid that no one in the world will let you off. Why don't I hand you over? The Tian Emochin is quiet and doesn't speak. The young girl burst into laughter. Don't worry, I'm just trying to scare you. Why would I hand over our obedient little Qi Huang? Those people in the cultivation world were the most selfish and sanctimonious. They don't care if all living things have a spirit, or if there's a reason for it. As long as it's a threat to them, they can't wait to kill it. They don't care if the other party is innocent or not. The Tian Emochin gently swings, making a tinkling sound, as if responding to the girl's words. TSK Qi Huang, you're not saying anything now? I was bored talking to myself for a long time, okay? Good Qi Huang. Good Qi Huang. Will you die if you respond to me? The Tian Emochin is quiet for a moment, then a tender child's voice comes out. And, respond to big sister? Haha. When the girl heard the child's voice, she immediately burst into laughter. Little Qi Huang. Why are you so cute? It would be great if you could transform into a physical body. You would definitely be small and soft, and I could hold you in my arms and play with you. This time, the child's voice doesn't come out, but the Tian Emochin's strings vibrate and hum, as if expressing its dissatisfaction. Hee, little Qi Huang, don't be angry. I'll accompany you after I'm done with the man. Bye. The scene in front of him changed again. This time, There's still the Tian Mo Chin, but the one standing in front of the Tian Mo Chin is no longer a young girl, but an old woman with a head full of white hair. However, the voice that came out of the old woman's mouth was still as clear and melodious as a young girl's. The day I've waited for has finally arrived. So this was the feeling of a divine cultivator's heaven's man 5 decays. My peerless beauty is gone. What's the point of living like this? The Tian Mo Chin makes a humming sound, like a chaotic noise, but also like a lament. Bailey Luin stretched out his hand and gently stroked the strings of the zither. His voice was soft and filled with reluctance. Actually, when my man died, I should have gone to accompany him. But I can't bear to leave you. I can't bear to leave you alone in this world. After I go, don't show yourself again. Do you understand? You should know that the cultivators in this world will not allow you to exist. It might be scary to live in the dark forever, but at least you're alive, right? Maybe one day, someone will appear and free you from the dark prison? Just because my sister can't do it doesn't mean that no one in this world can. Little Chi Huang, promise me, don't give up hope. Wait until the day someone can bring you out of hell, okay? The woman's body slowly became stiff and cold, until she became transparent like an ice sculpture. The Tian Mo Chin violently vibrates, as if something is about to rush out from inside. The woman stiffly stretches out her hand, seemingly wanting to appease the Tian Mo Chin. But it was already too late. She can only use a gentle voice, a smile on her face as she says, "Little Chi Huang, I, Bailey Luin, have lived another life. I've already experienced all the life I can experience." Chapter 3904. I single-handedly founded the Shun Music School and beat all the men and women who looked down on me in the 3 realms. I saved the lives of tens of thousands of people, and I've also killed countless evil people. I met the love of my life, grew old with him, and even gave birth to a child. I, Bailey Luin, have not suffered a loss in this life. But little Chi Huang, you're different. You've been trapped in that dark world for so long, and now that you've managed to form a bit of consciousness with great difficulty, you've never tasted delicious food, you've never heard the sound of flowing water, you've never smelled the refreshing fragrance of flowers. If you come out now and be exterminated by those so-called righteous cultivators, then your life would be too much of a failure. Little Chi Huang, promise Big Sister that you'll continue to sleep. One day, you'll wait for your prince or princess to wake you up. Don't mind the nonsense of those old bald donkeys. You're not your fate. Only you can control it. Mu Yan's mind is shaken. Perhaps it's because of the contract between her and Tian Mo Chin and Chi Huang, but she can feel a dense pain spreading through her soul. It's not a heart-wrenching pain, but it's so sad that it makes people want to cry. Mu Yan once again falls into the boundless darkness. Compared to the cold despair from before, there's a bit more indescribable loneliness this time. Day after day, year after year. Even if Mu Yan has already realized that she's trapped in Chi Huang's dreamland. A day and a year pass in the blink of an eye, but this kind of darkness is so long and cold that it makes people go crazy. Until she hears a woman's voice once again.
Ha!
So this Tian Mo Chin has a spirit? There's actually such a big space. How come I've never heard Father mention it before? As the woman's voice rings out, the darkness in front of Mu Yan dissipates once again, replaced by a beautiful white-clothed girl standing in front of the Tian Mo Chin, looking around curiously. Different from the blurry figure of Bailey Luin back then, the scene that appears in front of Mu Yan is very clear. This is the space of the Tian Mo Chin. Although the white-clothed girl's appearance is a bit immature, Mu Yan still recognizes her at a glance. That's the last musician of the Shin musician sect who passed on the Tian Mo Chin and the Shin musician skills to her in the Yanwu continent, Bailey Inlu. Chi Huang. Did you say your name is Chi Huang? Bailey Inlu's eyes flickered with curiosity. Wait, I seem to have seen this name in great-grandmother Bailey, Liu's notes. Great-grandmother mentioned that Chi Huang was her favorite little brother. But I later asked my father, and besides Great Madam and Great Madam, no one in the god musicians has ever seen Chi Huang. Bailey Inlu circles around the Tian Mo Chin again and again, It turns out that 7 brilliance isn't a person, but the Tian Mo Chin's tool spirit. Qi Huang, can you come out and see me? Qi Huang, can you come out and see me? The Tian Mo Chin is silent for a while, then it finally makes a buzzing sound, followed by a flash of red light. A red-robed youth appeared in front of Bailey Yinlu. That was 7 brilliance. She looked exactly the same as the current 7 brilliance, but her brows were gentle, and her eyes were clear and timid. She also carried a bit of ignorance, curiosity, and yearning towards the world. Mu Yan is a little stunned for a moment. Chapter 3905. Was this really her family's unruly, Sundara, stubborn Qi Xiaohuang, the one who would explode with rage when his mind was poked? What had he experienced in the end that could turn this crystal-clear youth into this? Of course, it's not that Mayan dislikes the current Qi Huang. Naughty children are always more fragrant at home. She feels that the youth in front of her is far from her Qi Xiaohuang's wanton, flamboyant, and energetic self. Something must have happened later that caused Qi Huang to change, right? Could it be because of the destruction of the god musicians? Suddenly, Mayan's thoughts stagnate, and her eyes widen. That's not right. If she remembers correctly, Qi Huang once said that the only person who had seen him in this world was Bailey Luin. But from the memory before her, Bailey Yinlu had clearly seen Qi Huang. Then, why didn't Qi Huang remember? Could it be that he lost his memory and forgot? Or, as she's lost in thought, the scene before her eyes begins to change. Mayan, who is seriously watching everything that's happening before her, gradually becomes unable to control her emotions. Her eyes are crimson, and her hands are tightly clenched into fists. If this wasn't a dream, she would definitely not be able to stop herself from rushing in, unable to stop herself from wanting. G. Mama, whoa. Mama, quickly wake up. Huang is scared. Gagaga. Mama, you're bleeding a lot. Whoa, where did Big Brother Red Pants go? Huang misses him. Amidst the noisy cries that make her skull hurt, Mayan suddenly opens her eyes and sits up from the ground. There's a tearing pain coming from her shoulder. Even a slight movement would affect her whole body, making her feel so much pain that she'd rather die. But Mayan can't care about anything at this time. She can only clutch her chest and gasp violently. Because her trachea is choking on the cold air, she can't help but cough violently, coughing to the point of vomiting. But because there's nothing in her stomach, she doesn't spit out anything. Beautiful sister, what's wrong? Are you feeling very uncomfortable? Chio, go wake up little brother, okay? G. Fufufu. Mama. Are you in pain? Huang will blow you. Mayan grabs the little chick that's blowing her face full of saliva and rubs its head, then reluctantly reveals a smile. Don't worry, I'm fine. I just saw something that I never want to see again. Everything those people had done to 7 brilliance. Mayan's hands are tightly clenched into fists, her fingertips digging into her palms, but she is completely unaware of it. Mommy, don't be sad. Huang will rub your head. Huang will accompany you to look for Brother Red Pants. Mu Yan couldn't help but chuckle as she watched the little chick rubbing its furry body against her. After that, he also hugged the worried little phoenix into his arms and stroked her head. Don't disturb Xiaobao's cultivation. He's at a critical moment right now. Can Qiu accompany me to find Qi Huang? Little Phoenix nodded obediently and rubbed his head against her palm like little yellow chick. Do you know where 7 brilliance went? What just happened? The two little fellows immediately chattered about what had happened before. Mu Yan felt that she had wasted tens of thousands of years in the boundless darkness and had a long and dreadful dream. But in reality, less than a quarter of an hour had passed in reality. After little martial uncle's natal sword, the Dragon Abyss sword, flew out and pierced through 7 brilliance's body. 7 brilliance's complexion suddenly changed, and he rushed into the forest behind him. Chapter 3906. After Qi Huang disappears, the Tian Mo Qin suddenly flies up on its own without anyone controlling it, and falls beside Mu Yan. Then, the dragon void sword on the side also seems to be attracted and flies over. Then, the dragon void sword actually starts to pluck the strings, making a tinkling sound. Mu Yan gently strokes the Tian Mo Qin, murmuring in a low voice, "So, did you let me enter the dream? Did you let me see Qi Huang's past?" But her fingers stroke the dragon void sword. This small dark green sword has helped her a lot, helping her condense her sword heart and polish her sword intent. At this time, it has become gray, as if it has lost its luster. Mu Yan's heart is filled with indescribable confusion and uneasiness, but I still don't know what everything I saw has to do with little martial uncle. Qi Huang's sudden change in temperament. Is it related to little martial uncle? Go go go, jijiji. Little Inghua waves its little wings, crying out with righteous indignation. The one who wanted to kill Mommy was the fake Red Pants Gidge, and the one who ran into the jungle later was the real Red Pants Gidge. Mommy, let's go kill the fake Red Pants Gidge and save the real Red Pants Gidge. Mu Yan can't help but laugh. Okay, let's go save the Red Pants Gidge. Qiu Qiu immediately asks for credit. Beautiful sister, Qiu Qiu left a fire phoenix clone on the Red Pants, cough cough, the great demon king. Qiu Qiu consents that he entered the woods and didn't leave, but there's nothing more. The great demon king has a terrible breath. Qiu Qiu's fire phoenix clone can't send back too much sense. Mu Yan praises. Qiu Qiu has done very well. Let's go get Qi Huang together, okay? The two little guys nod again and again. But Mu Yan didn't expect that with Qiu Qiu's fire phoenix clone limiting the range, and with little Inghua's good luck, she still couldn't find any trace of Qi Huang after turning the whole jungle upside down. There's only one possibility, and that is that Qi Huang has regained his consciousness and is hiding from her. Mu Yan becomes more and more anxious. She doesn't care how long she has to search for Qi Huang in this jungle. But the longer Qi Huang's breath is exposed, the more danger he will be in. The current Qi Huang is far from being strong enough to fight against the whole world. Qi Huang, come out. She pauses, continuing to speak in a clear voice. I've already seen your past in the Tian Imoqin's flower in the mirror and the moon in the water. But so what? No matter what you are still our 7 little brilliants. I don't care about your background. Xiaobao doesn't care. Huang doesn't care. Qiu Qiu doesn't care. You're the only one who cares. The dense forest was still silent. Suddenly, Mu Yan feels a sharp pain coming from her shoulder again. At this time, her strength and spiritual power have already been almost exhausted. Her fingers pluck the Tian Mo Qin twice, but she can no longer support herself. She staggers and falls down. Pretty sister. Good Gigi. Mommy. Mom, what's wrong with you? Mu Yan's body curls up into a ball on the damp and dirty ground. The lingering black gas wraps around her body like maggots in tarsal bones and slowly invades her heart meridians. Ha 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 ha. An ear-piercing laughter came from above. Chapter 30, 907. In this shady jungle, the youth's beautiful face is mottled with light and shadow. Beautiful phoenix eyes are bottomless, holding a playful and cruel smile. Looking at Mu Yan's painfully curled up appearance, he chuckles. Jun Mu Yan, I have to thank you again. If it weren't for you refusing to give up, searching in this jungle over and over again, disturbing that idiot state of mind, I wouldn't have been able to regain control of this body again. My dear master, thank you for giving me another chance to kill you. The red dress drags on the ground full of mud and rotten leaves, slowly approaching the curled-up Mu Yan. Little Inghua and Little Phoenix reveal a look of horror in their eyes. One by one, they spread their wings, trying to stop Qi Huang. Little Inghua spat at him repeatedly, cursing nonstop. You imposter. You're not Big Brother Red Pants. You're not allowed to come near Mommy. Get out of the way and return my Red Pants Gidge. Qi Huang casually waves his hand. Little Inghua and Little Phoenix are sent flying. Little Phoenix hits a tree, almost fainting. Little Inghua rolled far away like a ball. By the time he stood up, he could only see stars and his body was spinning. Qi Huang doesn't even spare them a glance. He goes straight to Mu Yan, grabs her injured shoulder, and lifts her up. The youth's mouth hooks up into a cruel smile. "When you're dead, I'll be free, and that idiot will never come out." The clear voice comes to an abrupt stop. Qi Huang raises his head in surprise, meeting a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes that seem to be smiling, yet not smiling. The bottom of the eyes is rippling, like a whirlpool that can swallow a person's soul. "You." Qi Huang can't even speak for a moment. "Your injury hasn't flared up?" Mu Yan curls up her lips, revealing a shallow smile. "Of course. Do you think that the Shin musician's art of Qi Huang is so useless? It flares up right after being cured? Qi Huang, if you want to compete with me in terms of using your brain, do it in your next life." Qi Huang flies into a rage. His hands are about to move. Suddenly, the intermittent sound of a zither, like the gurgling of water, reaches his ears. In an instant, it was as if an electric current had spread through his entire body. Qi Huang's body shuddered, then a red flush appeared on his pale face, and his lips began to tremble. Not far away, Mu Yan's phantom doppelganger is plucking the strings of the zither. Cheerful notes lingered around Qi Huang's body as the strings were plucked. Mu Yan patted the dust and leaves on her body and chuckled. "Qi Xiao Huang, have you almost forgotten the taste of the itchy meat set? How does it feel to experience it again? Does it leave a lasting aftertaste?" "Damn it. Stop. I told you to stop. Did you hear me?" Qi Huang's face was already flushed red, and his entire body shrunk into a ball, shaking nonstop like a sieve. A few uncontrollable laughter escaped from his mouth. This laughter caused a certain Lord Artifact spirit to fly into a rage out of humiliation, and he looked at Mu Yan as if he wanted to eat her up. Mu Yan clicked her tongue and shook her head. "Don't look at me like that. You're so watery and delicate. You don't have the slightest bit of deterrence. On the contrary, it makes people want to take liberties with you. Jun Mu Yan, you're courting death." Qi Huang roared and wanted to rush over, but the phantom doppelganger's hand moved. The red-clothed youth immediately fell to the ground, and he couldn't help but let out intermittent laughter. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.